I expect, the Marjorie Taylor Greens, the Cretans, the nut jobs like Matt Gaetz and Paul Gosar and Lauren Boebert and these people. I expect them to go along with it. But when you look back over the Trump years, the people I blame, frankly, are the Rob Portmans, because they were the adults in the room and they winked and nodded. They supported everything. They tried to argue that a tax cut that over 80% of it went to the top 1% was for the middle class and that it was needed even though the economy was at full steam. They winked and nodded at everything Trump did. And you are someone who's very reasonable, you're well respected, you and I have a great dialogue, we're great friends. It's people like you that most people will look to and they say, God, if Kerry won't even acknowledge that the election wasn't stolen, if Kerry is not criticizing Trump, if Kerry won't even admit that he wouldn't concede the election, God, maybe there's some truth to it. So it's the reasonable people like you. You're the ones that can save our party. Why can't you do more? You can still do more and not throw Trump under the bus.
Well, I think that, and I've said this before, I think the claims that he made, I think he had some, bad lawyers who were making up legal theories that were totally wrong.
You're getting into this.
And then,
that wasn't my question.
Yeah.
My question was, in general, you can just say, look, this man committed a lot of crimes. He shouldn't be the nominee. He shouldn't run again. He's unfit to be president. I'm supporting Ron DeSantis. I'm supporting so-and-so, and that we need to move past Trump. We can't nominate people like Doug Mastriano in Pennsylvania, who's a card-carrying election denier. We can't nominate people like Herschel Walker, who is the most literally clueless candidate in terms of knowledge and preparation ever, or Oz in Pennsylvania, who I don't even think has barely set foot in the state. We need to get serious and get back to what we used to be, the party of ideas, the party of solutions, the intellectual party.
Well, I think each of those candidates brings different strengths, and their strengths you want to choose to ignore. And yeah, every candidate has strengths and liabilities. That's the truth.
Of course.
For Dr. Oz, like as an example,
even everything
Dr.
evil
Oz
has a little good in it. Come on.
No,
Well,
I mean, Dr.
saying.
Oz is a physician. Like, who better to push back against Obamacare and socialized medicine than a physician like Dr. Oz?
First of all,
or the
Obamacare.
overreaches of the coronavirus shutdown. That's another thing he can push back effectively
God,
against. So,
Kerry, you're the best.
yeah,
I
don't
love
know.
how you call
All
it.
right.
Obamacare was a great plan when the Heritage Foundation came out with it. It was socialized medicine when Obama picked it up.
Yeah,
it's
Heritage
far
had
from socialized medicine, believe me. That's just a misnomer. But anyway, can't you see my point? I mean, that's because if people can't agree on the same facts, how can you govern? And that's the most damage that Trump has done. Because again, his ego couldn't handle the fact that he lost. He's gotten, half the party, if not more, to believe that the freest, fairest, most secure election we ever had, which the Trump administration admitted, and Trump admitted he lost as well, was stolen, all because his little ego couldn't handle it. And if reasonable people like you stood up and said, you know what, this is wrong, we need to move past this. I'm a proud Republican. This is not who we are, but you won't do it. Why?
Because people use coronavirus to put changes that were unconstitutional in the states. That's a true statement. So if you want me to lie and say I don't believe that, I can't.
Move past Trump. If you want to talk about abysmal performance on the coronavirus, let's talk about Trump. Okay, he was the one that denied it, that wouldn't even acknowledge it, even though he knew in a February 2020 interview with Bob Woodward, he admitted it on tape. And then he said, oh, it's just one person. It'll magically disappear in April. So let's not get into an argument about who handled coronavirus worse. I think, by the way, it's a bipartisan failure, being the fair person I am. It's a bipartisan failure. But why can't you say, for the good of the party, let's move past Trump?
I think that Trump did a lot to energize and make the base be heard. And I don't think that's something that should be cast aside.
No,
you cast aside,
you can still move
listening
past
to your
him
base
without
and
casting it
understanding.
aside. Ron DeSantis is someone I don't agree with a lot of what he does, but he's someone that doesn't offend the base. I see a type of Republican candidate as someone who doesn't offend the base, like you're talking about the Glenn Youngkin model. Okay, there are candidates like that out there, just not the man.
If Glenn Youngkin runs, I will work for him.
Temperamentally and intellectually unqualified to be president.
Dave, you heard it here. If Glenn Youngkin runs, I'll work for him.